Welcome to Simply Sheppy, your community podcast which aims to create and enhance connections within the community to build a better Sheppy.
So hi everybody, I'm Nicola Webster and I'm here with Kay Carter to welcome Kyle Rayner, the owner of Predator Boxing in Sheerness, who is here to talk to us about the value of boxing and how he contributes to the community on the Isle of Shephard. Thank you for joining us today, Kyle.
No problem. Thanks for having me. It's nice to be invited onto something new and promoting the Isle of Shepherd. So good stuff.
I think you're our first athlete that we've done.
For an athlete's a big call, but I'll turn up.
Oh, great. So who are Predator Boxing then, and what can they do for us?
So we're a local amateur boxing club. We're currently governed by the Amateur Boxing Association. New Road, we're based in New Road in Sheerness. So we run a variety of sessions from the amateur boxing team, which is our sort of elite boxers that are training, for competition. But there's a number of sessions available. So from the ages of 5 to 95, as long as you sign a disclaimer, you're more than welcome to come down and have a go. There's a lot of details that can be found on the website of the different sessions. I won't try and roll it all off now to you, but yeah, there's a number of classes for everyone.
I saw Boxercise.
Boxercise with Kimberly, yeah, that's really popular. She's having to do it outside at the moment, obviously with the restrictions, but we've been quite lucky with the weather, so she's managed to keep that up. But yeah, it's a really popular class. It's quite a high intensity interval training, so we sort of say it's hit without being hit, which is a bit of I need to copyright that saying, I think, but yeah, it's good because it's all the pad works, a lot of group activities. So unfortunately, she's not been able to continue that during lockdown in the gym, but she has, she's adjusted to that and she's doing it outside, and that seems to be quite a success for her. So that's really good. And I believe, I don't want to be misquoted because someone will tell me it's wrong, but I believe sometime this month that's going to move back inside. So we hope to welcome, the Boxercise class back.
Yeah. Did you adjust pretty quickly to COVID regulations and think of different ways in which you can still offer Boxercise classes?
Yeah, I mean, we was closed for a lot, obviously, with the proper lockdowns and stuff. We wasn't. I know that some of the professional gyms were still able to remain open, but being an amateur gym, we had to close completely. It's sort of returning back to normal a little bit now. The senior sessions, everyone has to still train individually, which limits us to what we can do. Because obviously most of the time we're doing technical things with each other and mixing up the exercises, but it's been okay. It's been good now with the team boxers, the under 18s, because that's been pretty much been able to return to normal. So it's nice just to get away from the reality of what's going on in the world for an hour or so, training the kids,
Bit of escapism, absolutely. So what are the benefits of boxing over other fitness programs?
Well, I think there's no fitness like a fighter's fitness. So anyone that's done boxing will tell you that even if they've just trained for fun, most people, I think, will agree that there's no fitness quite like boxing. But I mean, that's not to discredit any of the other sports that we've got going on the island. I think the thing is about boxing, it's not only what it gives you from an exercise perspective, especially for the youngsters coming into the gym. It's good for their discipline. It's good for a lot of their self-confidence. You'd be surprised how many kids these days come into the gym and they're so nervous. And within a couple of sessions, they get to know the other kids there and they come out of their shells and they all think I'm a miserable old git because I'm making sure they say please and thank you and pardon if they don't hear me. So I'm a stickler for all that. So it's that side of the social aspect as well. I think that a lot of people get the benefit from boxing. But I mean, looking at the island as a whole now, I think we're really lucky in recent years with the gyms that we've got. I mean, going back to when I was a boy, sound like Uncle Albert now, but when I was younger, there was one boxing gym and a couple of sort of recreational gyms. We had the leisure centre and the treadmill. But now there's, you've got the Fitbox gym in Queenborough, I believe, has opened up, which is giving good alternative gym facilities and Snap Fitness as well. So I think it's great on the island. There's so many facilities that are opening up now, and it's only going to benefit all of us as a wider community. There's I can't name how many boxing gyms there is on the island now, because some of them are struggling with premises, and there's some that have closed down. But there's definitely more than one. There was 4 at one point, and to my mind, that's great. The more the better, because it's great for the community as a whole, and it's great for me as a boxing gym and for my boxers, because there's more depth for getting sparring, and we can travel to these other gyms and help each other achieve. So yeah, I like it.
Yeah, I like that suggestion about working with other gyms and open some more sports centres opening. So you touched upon different age groups getting involved with boxing. Should we all box? Should all age groups box?
Yeah, give it a go. I mean, we've got all sorts of clientele that come down to the gym, all different ages. And, I mean, I wouldn't want to state names, but I mean, we've had people in the gym that are sort of over 60 years old training. And it's you got to give it a go, haven't you? I think obviously if you want to box competitively, you've got to be realistic about the age that you start that. But I think everyone can get involved in it in one form or another.
Is there any restrictions sort of on fitness or health for boxing?
We asked for a disclaimer to be filled out. I've probably got one somewhere, but we've got a disclaimer. There you go, put it on here. We've got a disclaimer form here that sort of shows you put your name, your number on it, and it's asks for your medical history and what your intentions are when you come. But I think that what we generally do, you might have someone in. We had a guy in here that was awaiting a knee operation, so he was limited with what he could do when it comes to doing sort of fitness circuits. This is pre-lockdown, but when we would do the fitness circuits, he would be limited to what he could do. But there's always alternative exercises to what someone can't do. So long as we know about that from the start, then quite often what we'll do is I would do it with this guy in particular. If I was asking everyone else to do squats, I'd give him an alternative exercise to do, just sort of shout it over to him, and it works. It's got to be for everyone, isn't it? We've got to try and include everyone as much as we can, because it does create a good community environment in the gym, and it's an outlet for a lot of people, isn't it?
Yeah. So if I was thinking of joining as a new member, you just said there about your disclaimer and what you want to get out of it. Do you do bespoke programs, almost like personal training programs for individuals?
Not particularly. I've started moving away from it. I do offer personal training sessions, but generally that's with some of my sort of longer serving clients. We can book online for the one-to-ones, but for me personally, I'm fully booked now. So obviously I work full time as well. So it's trying to fit everyone in was becoming quite impossible. I've got a young family at home, so it was something was suffering, and I think it was my sleepless nights really. So we do offer PT sessions, but for me personally, I'm fully stacked at the moment.
Yeah. So they're popular, and it's
yeah. I mean, there's a waiting list for the one-to-ones, and touch wood, since we've been reopened, all the sessions have been fully booked. So what we've had to start doing to adjust, sort of going back a little bit to one of your previous questions, to adjust with the COVID situation, all the bookings have been made online on our website. So, and that's the same with the one-to-ones, because we're so limited now on the class. I mean, we've had to cut the class size in half to accommodate the social distancing and all the other bits and pieces. So but it's busy.
Good. That's really good to hear. So what got you into boxing?
I've always been in and around the gyms. My dad was a keen martial artist anyway, so I've always been in and around boxing gyms and kickboxing gyms. I used to go to Invicta Kickboxing with Ray and Kelly Askew when I was a kid. They were good friends of my dad, so really good coaches there. I mean, I used to go to work with my dad on a Saturday, and his best mate that he worked with was a professional boxer at the time, Andy Kidd, and he made me a punch bag up and sort of got me into it, and my dad encouraged it further. And started going down Sheerness ABC at about 10, 11 years old. And it just become, again, it's that social thing for me. Like a lot of my friends, we would, especially on a Friday when we'd be sparring, we'd be knocking lumps out of each other on a Friday and then laughing about it at the park on a Saturday. So it's a funny old game, boxing, but made some really good friends through it over the years.
So it's in your blood.
Yeah, I couldn't be without it. I think it's funny. My partner Tasha will tell you if I'm not down at the gym, she'll often send me down to the gym just to, if she thinks I'm in a bit of a mood, get down the gym and shut up and get out of the house for a bit. So yeah, all right.
Yeah, it's great, isn't it? It's a good way of releasing any pent up stress. So if you've had a long work day, just to go by after work and release your stress from the day.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, funny enough, I was in there last night and I really didn't fancy getting down the gym last night. I had a one-to-one was booked in, and it's quite a long session on the Monday, and I just felt like I wanted to sit on the sofa and watch a bit of Netflix, to be honest. And but I got down there and I trained myself with the seniors as well, and it come across my mind whilst I was training that I'd had a stressful day at work and I hadn't given it a thought. In the whole time I've been in the gym, in the 4 hours or whatever it was that I was in the gym for, I hadn't given it a thought. And I think that's what appeals to a lot of people about exercise in general, isn't it? Like,
yeah,
you know, you can just forget about everything else. And quite often when you come away from it, you feel much better. So whatever it was that was stressing you out seems quite, you know, not such a worry afterwards.
Yeah,
you get
that's
the
true.
endorphins as well, don't you?
Yeah.
So with the ease of restrictions, how are you planning to get back to normal with predator boxing?
Well, we're limited on what Boris says, really, haven't we? We've just got to keep playing by the rules until we're told otherwise. I mean, we've had some good news recently. The Amateur Boxing Alliance have released their schedule for the season. So obviously there's not much of it left, but that's something. So now we can start looking for our boxers that are training. I mean, the big headache for me was when we were stopping and starting, and we've got these young adults and kids that are giving their everything. You know, like these kids are training in this gym. They're training 6 days a week. They're in here with us for 3 days a week, and then they're doing their road work. They're running, you know, at least another 3 days. So for them, having no schedule of a season, it's sort of how do we keep them motivated? But now that we've had that, I think that's going to be a big morale boost for the team. And I mean, credit to them all. None of them seem to have dropped down in their training despite not having much of a clue of what's going on. But that's going to be when I feel that we finally sort of return to whatever the new normal is, when we can actually get these boxers back out and competing again, because fundamentally that's what they're here for.
Yeah, we've had some sad news on the island where some small independent gyms didn't survive lockdown and they've had to close. And it's great that predator boxing has been able to continue and keep up.
Yeah. I mean, we've been very fortunate with help from our sponsors as well. So obviously, just to do a bit of a name drop, we've had PIL Self Storage have helped us massively, and Taste of India and Fairweather's Caribbean Cuisine. I mean, all three of our sponsors have just been great, and that's helped us along the way. And to be, you know, credit to the local council with regards to the rent, although we wasn't getting any benefits from sort of loss of income, they was covering the rent for us. So it wasn't completely crippling us. So all we had to then do was cover our insurances. You know, there was still things to pay out for, but it was sustainable, which helped.
Right.
Oh, I'm so pleased for you, and I'm so pleased that you managed to survive, and that at some point you'll be coming back to normal. So when you are all back to normal, now you have survived, what are the future plans for predator boxing?
Good question. So obviously we want to get back into these competitions for the amateur boxers and plan that out. Obviously, it would be really nice and a real normality when we can start getting around the other gyms and start sparring and sort of making it that sort of social aspect and just building up the amateur team, so to speak. But we've also started embarking on a lot of community work. So we've done a few community sort of projects, so to speak, in recent years. We do a free Christmas party. Obviously last year we was unable to do the party because of the restrictions, but prior to that we put on a free Christmas party for the community at the gym. So we turned the office, which I'm sitting in at the moment, into a bit of a grotto, and it's not just for the members, it's for the, you know, it's open to anyone in the community. And we do the gym up, and you know, it's great. We've got a 6'5" elf, Adam the elf, that comes in and Santa Claus dresses up, and so that's something we've done for a while now. But we want to start looking at doing further outreach community projects. I've done a post about it the other day, and we've had a few people message, and there's a few things we're looking into. But basically, the idea of it is that the club members, and with the help of our sponsors as well, we want to start getting out into the local community and just helping improve it. So just as an example, we've had a nursery message us recently and said it's for disabled children, and they've said that their garden could do with a bit of a spruce up. So I'm going to contact them soon, and hopefully we can just start spreading that positive, community image around the island. So that's something we're really passionate about, as well as continuing to grow the gym. But
that's very much in line with what Simply Sheppy is all about, actually, in terms of getting connected with people on the island, helping each other out, and things like that. So that's really good to hear, actually. I do think there is a very strong sense of community on the Isle of Sheppey, but we might talk about that in a minute, actually, because I'm jumping ahead of myself. Boxing is potentially a controversial sport, isn't it, at times? I know there's been sort of quite a lot said about head injuries and cauliflower ears and stuff. What do you say to people who criticise boxing or who don't think it's very helpful?
I think people look at it sometimes in the wrong light if they haven't been in and involved in the boxing gyms. I mean, we're heavily regulated with regards to the Amateur Boxing Alliance that we're part of, with England Boxing, which again is another huge amateur boxing organisation, right up to the professional ranks with the British Boxing Board of Control. These gyms and the people that are involved in them are it's so heavily regulated with all. I mean, as an example, all of our coaches obviously have to undergo training courses to become coaches, but running alongside that, they all have to be first aid trained. Everyone has to be safeguarding and CRB checked and all of that stuff. But safety to the people in attendance to these boxing gyms is paramount, really. And it's one of them things where until you're in the gym and you see how it operates. I mean, even with the sparring, we can't have sparring in the gym unless there's a level 2 coach present, overseeing that. They can't just be anyone walks in, like one of the parents, and just oversees it, because it has to be controlled. So I think until you're in the gym and seeing how things are run, it's difficult to quite understand. I mean, looking at it as a wider picture and not to start throwing facts and figures about, because I'll probably be totally wrong. But I know from sort of doing a little bit of research previously after conversations I've had with people over concerns of safety. I mean, boxers, there's a lot less deaths and injuries in boxing than there is in things such as horse riding and swimming and such what. So, it's sort of how you perceive it, I suppose. But it's easy to perceive it as so dangerous because of the nature of the sport. And I understand that, but come down and see what we're doing down here and then make the call on it. I think people have got to see it to understand it, haven't they? Otherwise, they're just making an opinion.
That's true, and they're reading things and forming opinions on that. I guess what you're saying is that yes, there are risks to boxing, like there are risks with all sports, but that's why you do and put in place all of these things in order to mitigate those risks. Just as if you go on a horse, you wear a helmet and protective gear. If you go on a bike, you wear a helmet. But then you've got the additional protection of the level 2 coaches. So I think, when they get a bit older and they go out into professional boxing.
that's But again, I mean, even with where the professionals are concerned, the gloves are that much smaller, and there are no head guards. But even with that, I mean, them professional boxers, the medicals that they have to undergo to become to be certified to be able to compete. There's brain scans, and this isn't just a one-off. This is on a regular occasion. So I think we're probably the best in the world at it. I mean, the British Boxing Board of Control, any professional coaches that I have anything to do with and speak to and that mentor me a little bit, they tell me that this is real serious stuff. It's not taken lightly. So that's all you can do, isn't it, to try and mitigate the risks as much as possible. And
the benefits are huge. So it's potentially worth taking.
Exactly. I mean, it's not only the benefits of like the keeping fit of boxing and everything else, but I mean it's the benefits of we're getting a lot of these kids off the street, and nowadays with the gang culture like it is, and with things that go on in these communities, and you know, Sheppey's no different. There's pockets of that go on all over the place, and you know, I often have to have conversations over in this office with young boxers, and they know what's required of them as being part of the gym, so it keeps them out of trouble, it keeps them away from them sort of things. And you know, they want to be fit, so they're not getting into smoking, they're not getting into drugs, whatever else it might be. So for all the dangers that there is of boxing, there's much more benefit, in my opinion.
Makes sense. We touched a little earlier, or I did, on the community on the Isle of Sheppard. This podcast is as much about the Isle of Sheppard as it is about anything else. So we are going to ask you what your favourite things are about the Isle of Sheppard.
Oh, God, where do I start? I think, without sounding too cliche, I think that the people on the island, as much as it's such a mixed bunch, that's great. So we're so diverse now. We probably wasn't maybe 10, 15 years ago, but I think we're getting so many different people that are now moving to the island and calling it home, that we're really building up a good community. But I think my favourite thing about the island, and I mean, I've lived here all my life, bar about 2 or 3 years when I was forced to live in Sittingbourne by my mum. But I know, shocking, but it weren't that bad. I went to school over there, so I've got a lot of friends over Sittingbourne, so that's fine. But all jokes apart, I mean, what I love about the island is I could be walking my dogs in Hearty in the middle of nowhere in the morning, and in the afternoon I could be sat down at Queenborough Harbour watching the boats, having some seafood, and being quite a sort of lively pub, you know. So not at the moment, obviously, but generally. So we've got such diversity, not only in the people, but in the actual landscape in the area here. I mean, the beaches. I was down the beach the other day. I took my kids for a walk at the weekend, and we walked all the way down onto the Minster beach and all the way up the cliffs and right round through Minster. So and it was beautiful. I mean, the crystal clear waters. You know, you don't get that everywhere, and I think sometimes we're quick to be criticised as a community, but there's so much good here that people need to appreciate it a bit more, I think.
I completely agree, and you're not the first person to mention about the people moving onto the island and calling it home and making it a bit more diverse. Myself and Nicola are actually new to the island and moved here and called it our own, and discovering the delights ourselves. I mean, Nicola, you look for the sea glass on the beach, don't you?
Yeah, and you're absolutely right about the landscape. That the islands are so small and so beautiful in terms of landscape that you can watch the sunrise on one beach and watch the sunset on another, all in the same day. And yeah, we're very lucky with the area and the landscape.
Yeah. We need to protect it.
Yeah.
And on the sort of less positive note, or perhaps on a more constructive note, what do you think that we need to do to make the Isle of Sheppard a better place to live for everybody?
It would be nice to see a bit more investment, wouldn't it? I think that we do play second fiddle to the mainlanders across the water. I mean, you look at the developments going on in Sittingbourne at the moment with regards to the cinema and all the bits they're getting over there, which is great for them, and you know, they need it as well. But I'd like to see a bit of investment in our high street and our local community in that aspect. I mean, I've always said if I ever won the Euro Millions, I'd like to put some big events on here, like some festivals or some sort of outdoor parties. But you know,
it's odd you say that, because we had DJ Touch on here a few weeks ago, and she's very keen to do a music event on the island. Yeah. Very keen.
There you go. Yeah. All I've got to do is win the lottery then, and we can go ahead with it.
No, you don't need to do that. We can bid for some funding, I'm sure.
It hasn't got to be expensive, is it? This is the thing. We can, with a community like we've got, there's plenty of resource between us all to do these activities. But we've just got to get the buy-in from it. And I mean, I haven't put on events of that size, but I know, speaking to some people some years ago, that were looking at trying to do, I think it was a bonfire event, and the bureaucracy of it. And I understand that with that sort of thing there probably is, but they had to, they done it for years prior, but they had to stop doing it because they just couldn't keep jumping through the loopholes for it. So we need some investment from our local, you know, council and government more locally to what we're doing here in Sheerness and the surrounding areas.
Yeah, and to see events be a positive thing and not a negative. That's we need to change that mind frame, that a music festival would be positive. Don't jump thinking it would be a negative aspect.
Yeah, definitely.
But it's also about sorry, go
No,
ahead. Carl. I was going to say it's also about understanding the negative effects of the event and in advance and being able to mitigate those, isn't it? Like the noise and the litter and the traffic, and sort of understand and sort of managing those properly, isn't it?
Yeah. I think that the again, it's a bit like we were saying earlier with the boxing and the risk that, you know, the benefit would far outweigh any negatives, so long as everyone's coming together and working together with it. It would be great for local businesses. It would be great just for the local community to have something to look forward to. And I can't really see many negatives about it. But, you know, with things like that, you need larger support, don't you? We've seen people try and do these things on a small scale on the island, and it ends up not really having the success that was hoped for, because it hasn't had the buy-in from everybody. You know, you're always going to get naysayers that don't want it. Just look at the Sheppey gossip board. There's always someone moaning about something. But, you know, I think most people would see it as a positive.
Yeah, especially if we can all go. And we all enjoy the music.
Exactly that.
So potentially a shout out to people on the island. If you do, again, another shout out to people on the island if you're interested in setting up an event. Hopefully people listen to this podcast and think, oh, I want to get involved in that, or they're inspired by it in some way, and they get together and they make connections. So thank you so much, Kyle, for being with us today.
No, it's been my pleasure.
and thank you to all of our listeners. Remember, this is your podcast. Please get involved, get in touch at Simply Sheppey on Facebook or simplysheppey@gmail.com. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.